Imagine that time is a river, and tonight you are drifting backward along it, past cities, past ice ages, past the first flowers, until the water grows warm and the air turns thick and green. 66 million years slide by, and when you open your eyes, you are standing in a world no human has ever seen. The sun is rising over a coastal plain. Somewhere in the distance, something enormous is breathing. This is the last day. Not that you know it yet, not that anyone does. So let yourself wonder, softly, the question that brought you here. What if you witnessed the dinosaurs' final day in person? You would not arrive to trumpets or terror. You would arrive to bird song, or something close to it. The first thing you notice is the sound, a low, layered chorus drifting through the humid dawn. The calls of creatures you have no names for, echoing across a floodplain that stretches farther than your eyes can follow. The land here is flat and generous, cut by slow brown rivers that wander toward a warm inland sea. This is the western edge of a great continent, a low country of swamps and forests and open meadows, and it is teeming with life in a way that no place on earth will ever be again. The air is the second thing. It is warm even at daybreak, heavy with moisture, carrying the smell of mud and rotting leaves and the sweetness of resin from the conifers. There's no grass beneath your feet. Grass is still a rare and minor thing in this world. Instead, you stand among ferns that brush your knees, low cycads with their crowns of stiff fronds, and thickets of flowering shrubs, for flowers have already begun their quiet takeover of the planet. Magnolias pale as candles open in the understory. Palms lean over the riverbanks. The forest behind you is a cathedral of bald cypress and dawn redwood, their trunks rising into a canopy where the light comes down in slow green columns. And then you see the first of them. Across the meadow, perhaps 100 paces off, a shape resolves out of the morning haze. At first you take it for a boulder, then for a fallen tree. Then it moves, and your breath catches because it is neither. It is a Triceratops, and it is watching you with one small, dark, patient eye. You have seen pictures of this animal your whole life. Nothing prepared you for the fact of it. It is the size of a large elephant, perhaps 3 tons of muscle and hide, and from the back of its skull rises a great bony frill like a shield held up against the sky. 3 horns crown its face, 2 long ones sweeping forward over the eyes, longer than your arm, and a shorter one on the snout. Its beak is hooked and hard, built for shearing through the toughest vegetation this land can offer. It is not afraid of you. You are small and slow and unfamiliar, and it has decided you are not worth the trouble. It lowers its head and resumes tearing at a stand of ferns, and the sound of that chewing, deep, deliberate, grinding, carries clearly across the still air. You are looking at one of the most successful animals of its age. Triceratops was not a rare creature. It was everywhere in this landscape. The great grazing engine of the late Cretaceous plains. And where you find one, you will usually find more, sure enough. As the light strengthens, you begin to pick out others in the distance. A scattered herd of these living tanks, some grown, some smaller and half-frilled, moving through the meadows with the unhurried confidence of animals that have very few enemies. Their skin, close up, is not the smooth gray of your imagination. It is pebbled and folded, textured like tree bark, and along the back and flanks, it may carry patterns you can barely make out in the low light. Modeling, perhaps banding, the honest colors of an animal that lives and hides and displays in a world of green and brown. This is what you must understand about the place you have arrived. It is not a monster's lair. It is not a wasteland of constant violence, the way the old films painted it. It is a functioning world, an ecosystem as rich and balanced and ordinary to the animals who live in it as any savanna or rainforest you might visit today. The Triceratops does not spend its days in battle. It spends them the way a bison or a rhinoceros does, eating, resting, walking to water, tending its young. Most of these creatures, for most of their lives, are simply trying to get through the day. And on this particular day, unknown to any of them, there will be no tomorrow. But hold on to that thought. We will return to it soon. For now, let us simply stand here in the wet grass of the morning and let the world wake up around us. Because there is so much still to see. The rivers are alive. As you walk toward the nearest one, careful and quiet, you notice the water is not still. Long shapes drift just beneath the surface, armored and ancient crocodilians, some no larger than the ones alive today, but others far bigger, waiting in the shallows with the same terrible patience their descendants still practice. On a mud bank, a cluster of turtles the size of dinner plates sun themselves. Dragonflies stitch the air above the reeds, and in the shallows themselves, waiting on legs like stilts, small feathered dinosaurs pick through the mud for insects and worms, flicking their heads with quick, bird-like movements, because that is the other thing you will have to unlearn tonight. Many of these animals have feathers, not the great grazers, perhaps, but the smaller hunters and foragers all around you wear coats of downy, hair-like filaments, some barred and colored, so that the meadow shimmers not with scales alone, but with plumage, as though the forest were full of enormous, strange ground-bound birds. Overhead, a shadow passes, and you look up. It is so large that for a moment, your mind refuses to accept it, gliding across the brightening sky on wings that could span a small aircraft. A creature the size of a giraffe soars over the floodplain on the morning thermals. This is Quetzalcoatlus, one of the last and greatest of the flying reptiles, the pterosaurs. Not a dinosaur itself, but a cousin ruling the air above them. Standing on the ground, it would look you in the eye, and then some. Folded on its wings, it walks the earth on all fours, like some vast stalking heron. In flight, it is impossibly graceful. A sheet of leather and hollow bone stretched across the sky, and it does not flap so much as ride the rising air, circling, watching the ground below for anything small enough to swallow. You follow it with your eyes until it is a dark cross against the sun, and then it slides away over the trees and is gone. You lower your gaze, and you realize your heart is beating hard, not from fear, but from something older and simpler, wonder. You're standing in a real place, on a real morning, and everything in it is alive, and none of it knows your name or your century. The light is gold now. The mist is lifting off the water. Somewhere behind the tree line, that first great breathing sound has begun again. Closer now, and you feel it more than hear it. A slow pressure against your chest. You do not yet know what makes that sound. Over the coming pages, you will meet it, and many others. The armored ones, and the crested ones, the swift hunters, and the gentle giants. The whole cast of this vanished world, laid out before you across the hours of its final day. You will feel the heat of noon and the strange stillness of an afternoon that should be like any other. And far, far out in the black of space, something is already coming that none of them will ever see. But that is later, for now the day is only beginning, and the world is warm and green and impossibly full. Breathe it in. Let it be real. And when you are ready, we will walk a little deeper into it. The breathing came again, and this time the ground answered it. You feel the tremor, first through the soles of your feet, a soft, rhythmic shudder in the earth, spaced out like the ticking of some enormous, slow clock. Each pulse is a footfall, and each footfall is coming closer. The Triceratops herd in the meadow has stopped grazing. Every great horned head has lifted and turned toward the tree line, and though these are 3-ton animals, armored like living fortresses, there is something in the way they have gone still that tells you all you need to know. Whatever is walking out of that forest, even they take seriously the trees part, and you meet the animal that has haunted human imagination more than any other. Tyrannosaurus Rex steps into the light, and your first overwhelming impression is not of teeth or of fury. It is simply of size. Nothing in your world moves like this. It stands perhaps 4 meters tall at the hip, and if it were to raise its head fully, it would look down on you from the height of a 2-story building. From the tip of its snout to the end of its heavy, counterbalancing tail, it stretches 12, maybe 13 meters, longer than a city bus, longer than a school bus with room to spare. It weighs something on the order of 8 or 9 tons. To hold that number in your mind, imagine a full-grown African bull elephant, the largest land animal alive today. Now imagine 1.5 of them fused into a single creature and stood upright on 2 legs. That is what is walking toward the river in front of you, and it walks with a terrible, unhurried economy. There is no wasted motion. The huge head swings gently with each stride, balanced by the tail held out straight behind. The whole body, a single suspended beam pivoting over the hips. The legs are pillars of muscle, each one thicker than your entire body, ending in 3 forward toes tipped with claws that press deep crescents into the mud. Those famously small arms, almost comic in the pictures, are, seen in person, not comic at all. Each one is still as long as a man's arm and could curl a weight you could never lift. They are simply small in proportion to the monstrous frame behind them. And the head. The head is 1.5 meters of bone, wide and deep and built like a battering ram, and set within it are the teeth. You have heard the numbers. Hearing them and seeing them are different things. The largest of those teeth are the size of bananas, some over 20 centimeters from root to tip, thick as railroad spikes, and serrated along each edge like a steak knife. There are around 60 of them. This is not a jaw made for slicing the way a lion's is. It is a jaw made for crushing. The bite of this animal is the most powerful ever measured for any creature that has walked on land. A force so great it could shatter bone, snap through the frill of a Triceratops, crack open a carcass to reach the marrow inside. When a Tyrannosaurus closed its mouth, it did not merely wound, it demolished. And yet, watching it now, you are struck by how little of that power is being spent. The great animal pauses at the edge of the meadow, lifts its head, and simply smells the air, because that is its true gift. Not the teeth, not even the size, but the nose. Inside that enormous skull sits a brain with vast regions devoted to scent, and it can read the wind the way you read a page. It knows the herd is there. It knows you are there. It knows what died in the reeds 3 days ago and where the river turned last week. It is reading an entire landscape written in molecules on the breeze, and it is deciding calmly whether any of it is worth the effort. For now, it seems, the answer is no. The herd is grown and horned and alert. The day is early. The hunter is not yet hungry enough to gamble. It lets out one long, low rumble. That same breathing sound that has followed you all morning, so deep it lives at the very bottom of your hearing, and moves on along the tree line. And the earth's slow ticking fades. You realize you have not moved in a full minute. To give you a true sense of the scale of this world, consider that the Tyrannosaurus is not even the largest dinosaur that has ever lived. Not by a wide margin. It is simply the greatest land predator of its own time and place, millions of years before this morning, and on other continents. There walked plant eaters so vast, they make the T-Rex look modest. The long-necked Tyrannosaurs of the southern lands reached lengths of 30 meters and more, and weighed as much as 10 or 12 elephants together. Animals whose single footprint could hold a grown human sitting down, whose necks alone were longer than the whole body of the hunter you just watched. Those giants are mostly gone from this particular corner of the world by now, replaced by the horned and armored herds. But their existence tells you something, that life, given enough time and warmth and a world without ice, will build bodies on a scale we can barely picture. The Cretaceous was a hothouse Earth. The seas were high. The poles were forested. Carbon dioxide filled the warm air, and plants grew in such riotous abundance that they could feed animals the size of houses. Bigness was not an accident here. It was the natural reward of a green and generous planet. Even the ones that stayed close to the ground carried astonishing armor not far off. Moving through the ferns with the slow patience of a living boulder, you notice another shape you had taken for part of the landscape. It is an ankylosaurus, and if the Triceratops was a tank, this animal is a fortress on legs, broad and low and impossibly heavy, perhaps 6 or 7 meters long. Its entire back is paved with plates of bone set into the skin, studded with spikes, a mosaic of armor so complete that even the Tyrannosaurus thinks twice, and at the end of its tail hangs the reason why, a mass of fused bone the size and weight of a sledgehammer's head, a club it can swing with enough force to break a predator's leg. Nothing about this creature is fast. It does not need to be. It carries its safety with it everywhere, welded to its own body, and it grazes the low plants without ever lifting its head to check for danger, because danger, for the most part, has learned to leave it alone. This is the lesson of the scale of this world. Everything here is built to an outsized measure. The hunters and the hunted alike, locked in an arms race that has been running for tens of millions of years. The teeth grew longer, so the frills grew wider. The bite grew stronger, so the armor grew thicker. The predators grew taller, so the club at the end of the tail grew heavier. Every animal you can see is the current answer to a question the animal beside it is asking, and all of it works. All of it is in balance, a slow and stable dance of muscle and bone that has held, in one form or another, for longer than you can truly comprehend. For a stretch of time so vast that if you compressed all of human history into a single breath, the age of the dinosaurs would still be running long after you had breathed in and out 10,000 times. Which makes what is coming all the harder to imagine, because everything you are looking at, the towering hunter fading into the trees, the armored fortress in the ferns, the great horned herds standing patient in the meadow, this entire cathedral of size and power that took 150 million years to build, every last piece of it is living out its final hours. The balance that made these giants possible is about to be broken, not slowly, not by any rival on the ground, but by something none of them could ever have seen coming. For now, though, the sun climbs higher, the mist is gone, the day grows warm, and there is still so much of this world left to walk through. Let us go a little deeper and meet the ones who fill the hours between the giants. By mid-morning, the great predators and the armored giants have moved on, and the plain settles into a different rhythm, the busy, ordinary life of the many. For every Tyrannosaurus in this world, there are hundreds of animals it might one day hunt, and they fill the meadows and forests in a diversity that no single glance can hold. If you want to understand this place, you must meet them one at a time, and there is no better hour to do it than now, with the sun warm and the herds on the move. The most numerous by far are the ones the animals of the future will call the duckbills. Walk toward the river, and you find this by the thousand. Edmontosaurus, great gentle plant eaters as long as the Tyrannosaurus, but built for peace rather than war. They move on all fours to graze and rise onto their two hind legs to walk and to run, their broad, toothless beaks cropping vegetation, which they grind with batteries of hundreds of teeth packed into their cheeks, ranks upon ranks of them, replacing themselves endlessly as they wear down. An Edmontosaurus is a chewing machine of astonishing efficiency, and it needs to be, because a herd of them can strip a floodplain of its ferns and horsetails the way a plague of locusts strips a field. They have no horns, no armor, no clubs. Their defense is one another. They live in vast, loose herds, hundreds strong, and their safety lies in numbers and in noise and in the simple mathematics of a predator that can only take one at a time. Listen, and you will hear that noise. The duckbills are among the most vocal animals in this world. Some of their kin, the crested ones, the lambeosaurs of earlier ages and other lands, carried hollow, curving crests atop their skulls, long tubes of bone connected to the nasal passages, and when they forced air through them, they produced deep, resonant, trumpeting calls that could roll across a valley for miles. Imagine an orchestra of brass instruments the size of tree trunks, sounding low and mournful across the wetlands at dawn and dusk, each herd calling and answering, mothers locating calves, sentinels announcing the movement of the group. Even the crestless Edmontosaurus in front of you rumbles and honks and bellows, and the sound of a duckbill herd on the move is one of the defining voices of this entire age. A great, soft, grumbling chorus, endlessly conversational, that fills the background of every hour, among them, moving through the herd like nervous ornaments, are smaller creatures you have to look twice to see. Thessalosaurus, a modest plant eater the size of a large dog or a small pony, quick and low and watchful, darting between the legs of the giants to snatch the tender shoots the big animals miss, and weaving at the edges, half glimpsed in the ferns, are the truly small ones, the little bird-like dinosaurs, feathered and swift, no bigger than a chicken or a turkey, that make their living on insects and seeds and the eggs of anything careless enough to leave a nest unguarded. This is the layer of the world most easily forgotten, the small and the many, and yet it is the most important of all, for it is from these small, warm, feathered creatures, not from the giants, that the survivors of tomorrow will come. But hold that thought, we are not there yet. Where there are herds, there are hunters that are not the king. Along a low ridge, half hidden in the brush, you catch a flash of movement, a Dakota raptor, one of the largest of the sickle-clawed raptors, as long as a car and covered unmistakably in feathers. Its arms are wings that cannot fly, banded and barred, and on the second toe of each foot, it carries a curved, killing claw the length of your hand, held up off the ground as it moves so as not to blunt it. This is not the mindless monster of the films. It is fast, it is sharp-eyed, and it may well hunt in pairs or small groups. And it takes the young, the sick, the isolated. It watches the duckbill herd the way a wolf watches caribou, patiently doing arithmetic, waiting for the one animal that strays too far or lags too long. For now it only watches. The herd is thick and alert, and a raptor that charges into a wall of 2-ton bodies is a raptor that gets trampled. So it waits, and its stillness is its own kind of language. And every duckbill on that flank of the herd knows exactly where it is. Move into the forest, and the cast changes again. Here, in the dappled green, you find the strangest of them all, Pachycephalosaurus, the domehead, a plant-eater the size of a person's height at the hip, walking upright on 2 legs, with a skull roofed in a great rounded helmet of solid bone as thick as your fist, ringed with knobs and small spikes. For years, the animals of the future will argue about what that helmet was for, whether the males charged one another head-to-head like living rams, or shoved flank to flank, or simply displayed the great bony domes to win mates and settle rank without ever striking a blow. Whatever the truth, the domehead lives its life in the quiet of the woods, browsing on leaves and fruit and seeds, a solitary and secretive creature, and to see one at all is a small piece of luck. And everywhere, tucked into the roots and the soft riverbanks and the sheltered hollows, there are nests. This is the secret engine of the whole world, the reason it renews itself season after season. The duckbills build great communal nesting grounds, mounded scrapes of earth and rotting vegetation whose warmth helps incubate the eggs, and they return to them year after year, generation after generation, so that some of these sites have been in use for longer than any human civilization will ever last. The horned dinosaurs tend their clutches. The little feathered ones brood their eggs beneath their bodies, exactly as birds still do, keeping them warm with the heat of their own blood. There are eggs in the ground all around you as you walk. The next generation of this world, curled and waiting in the dark, due to hatch in a season that, for them, will never come. Because this is the thing you must hold in your mind as you move among them. Every one of these lives is complete. The duckbill grazing at the river has a history, a mother, a herd, a place in the migration, a set of paths it has walked 1,000 times. The raptor on the ridge has learned its patience over years of hunts. The domehead in the forest has its territory and its rivals and its quiet routines. The eggs in the ground are the future, confidently laid. The animals of this age doing what animals have always done, investing in a tomorrow they have every reason to expect. Nothing in this landscape is behaving like a creature at the end of its world. Nothing is afraid of the sky. The Tyrannosaurus fears no rival. The Ankylosaurus fears no tooth. The duckbill fears only the raptor, and the raptor fears only the miscalculation. Their world is old and stable and, by every measure they could possibly know, eternal. They are, all of them, exactly as alive and present and unconcerned as you were, on an ordinary morning before you drifted back along the river of time to stand here among them. And that is what makes this day different from all the millions of days that came before it. Not that anything looks wrong, but that nothing does, and everything is about to change anyway. The sun is climbing toward noon now. The herds are moving toward water. The heat is building over the floodplain in shimmering waves, and the air has gone still. That particular waiting stillness of a hot afternoon, somewhere far overhead, higher than the pterosaurs, higher than the clouds, higher than the blue itself. A new point of light has appeared in the daytime sky. None of the animals notice it, not yet. Let us keep walking with them a little longer into the heat of the day and see the world as it is at its fullest, because it will never be this full again. Follow the herds long enough and the land begins to change. The rivers you have been walking beside grow wider and slower, braiding into channels that wander between islands of reed and mud. And the water turns brackish, then salt, and the air fills with a new smell, the clean mineral breath of the sea. You have reached the coast, and here, at the edge of the continent, the world opens into something even greater than the plain behind you, because just offshore lies one of the strangest features of this vanished earth, a vast, warm, shallow ocean running straight up the middle of the continent, splitting the land in two. They will call it the Western Interior Seaway. In this age, the world is a hothouse, the ice caps small or gone entirely, and the seas stand hundreds of meters higher than they will in your own time. So much of the land lies drowned, where future maps will show open prairie and dry plains. There is instead a broad tropical sea, warm as bathwater at the surface, teeming from top to bottom with life. Standing on this shore, you're looking out over water that covers the heart of a continent, and the horizon is all blue, and the waves come in slow and lazy under the noon sun. The coast itself is a paradise of the living. Vast flocks of pterosaurs wheel over the shallows, some small and quick, snatching fish from the surface, others, the giants, the quetzalcoatlus, and their kin, stalking the tidal flats on foot like impossible storks, spearing anything that moves in the mud. Along the beaches lie the tracks of countless animals that come here to drink and to feed, and in the estuaries, the duckbill herds wade belly deep, grazing on the soft water plants, honking and rumbling their endless conversation. Turtles the size of small boats haul themselves onto sandbars to bask, and in the reed beds, crocodilians lie in wait, some of them monsters in their own right, longer than the raptors, patient as stones, taking the careless at the water's edge. But the true rulers of this warm sea are not on the shore. They are beneath it. Wade out a little, if you dare, into the clear shallows, and look down, and you will see shapes moving that belong to no world you know. The sea is full of reptiles that returned to the water tens of millions of years ago and made it entirely their own. There are long-necked plesiosaurs, barrel-bodied and four-flippered, their small heads on necks like swaying masts, drifting through schools of fish and picking them off one by one. There are sea turtles the size of small cars, ancient even by the standards of this age. And there is the one you should be glad to watch only from the shore, the mosasaur. A great mosasaur is the Tyrannosaurus of the sea, and in some ways more terrible still. Imagine a lizard, a true lizard, cousin to the monitors and the snakes, that grew to the length of a bus and took to the open ocean, its limbs remade into paddles, its tail flattened into a swimming fin, its jaws lined with backward curving teeth and hinged so it can swallow prey whole. The largest of them reach 15 meters or more. They cruise these warm shallows as the undisputed apex hunters, taking fish, turtles, plesiosaurs, sharks, even one another. When one rises to breathe, its back breaks the surface like the hull of an overturned boat, and then it slips down again into the blue and is gone, and the water closes over it as though nothing were there at all. The sea, for all its beauty, is no gentler than the land. It is only quieter about its violence. And below even the hunters, holding the whole vast machine together, lies the foundation you cannot see. The warm sunlit water is thick with plankton, countless trillions of microscopic plants and animals drifting in the currents, so numerous they tint the water, and so vital that everything else depends on them. The plankton feed the small fish feed the large feed the plesiosaurs, and the sharks and the mosasaurs. And when any of them dies, its body rains down into the dark and feeds the world of the deep. It is an invisible economy of staggering scale, and it has run without interruption for longer than any creature here could imagine. Remember this quiet foundation. When everything changes tomorrow, it will not begin with the giants. It will begin here, with the smallest things of all, with the plankton in the sunlit water and the plants on the warm land. And everything above them will simply follow them down. But that is tomorrow. Today the sea sparkles, and the coast is loud with life, and you stand at the meeting place of two great worlds, the drowned and the living, feeling very small and very lucky. The sun is directly overhead now. The heat lies heavy on the water, and if you turn your face up to the pale blue sky and shade your eyes, you will see it again. The thing the animals have not noticed, the thing that has been growing all day. It is a star in the middle of the afternoon in a cloudless sky. When you first glimpsed it this morning, it was only a point, easily mistaken for a trick of the eye, no brighter than Venus at dusk. Now, hours later, it is unmistakable. A fixed, cold, silver light hanging high in the daytime blue, and it is no longer quite a point. It has the faintest disk to it, the way the moon has a disk, and it does not move against the sky the way a bird or a cloud would move. It simply hangs there, and it is brighter than it was at noon, and it will be brighter still by evening. None of the animals look up. Why would they? The duckbills graze in the shallows. The pterosaurs wheel and cry. The mosasaur rolls once in the blue and sinks from sight. To every creature in this world, the light in the sky is nothing. No smell, no sound, no heat, no threat that any instinct was ever built to recognize. There is nothing in 150 million years of dinosaur evolution that has prepared a single one of them to fear a point of light. And so they do not. They go on living their ordinary, magnificent afternoon exactly as they have lived every afternoon before it. But you know, alone among every living thing on this shore, know what that light is and where it is going and what it will do when it arrives. And knowing it changes the way the whole world looks, the warm sea, the waiting herds, the wheeling flocks, the great hunter, somewhere back in the forest, with its unmatched teeth and its unmatched nose, all of it takes on the tender, luminous quality of things seen for the last time, though they themselves do not know it. You want to warn them. There is no way to warn them. There is nothing to be done but to watch and to remember, and to walk with them through the last golden hours of the only world they have ever known. So let us do that. Let us turn back from the shining sea and walk inland again into the long light of the afternoon and spend this quiet time the way it deserves to be spent, not in dread, but in attention, because there is one more thing this world has to show you before the light in the sky becomes a sun of its own, and it is the most peaceful thing of all. Walk back inland from the shining coast into the shade of the great forest, and let your eyes drop from the giants to the ground beneath them. There is a whole other world down here, in the leaf litter and the shadows and the hollow logs, and it is a world the towering dinosaurs barely notice, yet it is the one that matters most for what comes after. If the day belongs to the giants, the undergrowth belongs to the small, the quick and the hidden, and among them, unremarkable and easily overlooked, are the ancestors of nearly everything that will inherit the earth. Crouch down, be patient, and you will see them. There, at the base of a rotting log, something small and furred slips through the ferns, a creature no larger than a rat or a shrew, with a pointed snout, bright dark eyes, and a long tail, sniffing quickly at the ground. It is a mammal, not a dinosaur, not a reptile, but one of the earliest members of the warm-blooded, fur-covered line that will one day include the whales, the elephants, the wolves, and you. In this world, mammals are a minor thing, small, secretive, mostly nocturnal, living in the cracks and margins of a planet ruled entirely by dinosaurs. For over 100 million years, they have stayed small. There was never room to be otherwise. Every large body plan, every grazing niche, every predatory role was already filled by something scaled or feathered and far larger. So the mammals learned to be quiet. They learned to come out at night when the great cold-loving reptiles slowed and the giants slept. They learned to burrow, to hide, to eat insects and seeds and eggs, to raise their young in the dark and the safety of the underground. That habit of hiding, that smallness, that patience, it looks like failure. It is, in fact, the single most important survival strategy on the planet, though not one of these little animals could possibly know it, because tomorrow, when the light in the sky arrives and the world above ground burns and freezes and starves, it will be precisely the small, the burrowing, the omnivorous, and the sheltered that live. The giants are too large to hide and too hungry to fast. The little mammal sniffing at the log, able to shelter in a burrow, able to eat almost anything, able to survive on scraps and seeds through a long and terrible winter, is holding a winning ticket in a lottery no one knows is being drawn. Look at it well. In its bright eyes and busy whiskers is the deep, deep beginning of your own family line. It is not alone down here. The forest floor hums with life on a scale the giants never register. There are insects beyond counting, beetles in glittering armor, ancient cousins of the cockroach, dragonflies, the first bees moving among the first flowers, ants building their cities in the soil. There are lizards and snakes, small and swift, some of them already recognizably modern. There are amphibians in the wet places, salamanders and frogs, whose descendants will sit in ponds 100 million years from now, singing on summer nights. There are the little feathered dinosaurs, the true birds among them, small enough to roost in the branches and to feed on seeds and insects. And they, too, hold a winning ticket, for it is from these small birds that the only surviving line of dinosaurs will carry on into every age that follows. When you hear a sparrow in your own garden, you are hearing the voice of this forest floor, the one branch of the great dinosaur family that made it through, and all of it is connected. That is the thing the eye of a visitor first misses and then, slowly, begins to understand. This is not a collection of separate creatures sharing a landscape. It is a single vast machine, every part turning against every other part. The flowers feed the insects feed the birds and the mammals and the little lizards. The plants feed the duckbills and the horned herds. The herds feed the raptors and the great king of the forest. And every animal that dies, from the smallest shrew to the largest Tyrannosaurus, is broken down and returned to the soil by the beetles and the microbes and the fungi, so that the forest can grow again and feed the herds again in an endless turning wheel. Pull out any one piece and the others wobble. Pull out enough, and the whole thing falls. The foundation of that machine, you saw it already in the warm sea, and it is true on land as well, is the smallest and most silent thing of all. The green, the plants, the plankton in the water and the leaves on the land, quietly turning sunlight into food, feeding everything above them. Every giant you have marveled at today, every horn and club and killing tooth, is built ultimately out of sunlight caught by something green. Cut off the sunlight, even for a season, and the green will fail. And when the green fails, the failure will climb the machine from the bottom up, from the plants to the plant eaters to the flesh eaters, until even the great king in the forest, who fears nothing that walks or swims or flies, starves in a silent and darkened world with no idea what has taken his kingdom from him. But that is tomorrow's story, and you are getting ahead of it. Rise up from the forest floor. Brush the ferns from your knees. The little mammal has vanished back into its shadows. The beetles go on with their work, and above you, through the canopy, the light has begun to change. The fierce white glare of noon has softened and gone golden. The afternoon is deepening toward evening. Long shafts of amber light slant down through the trees, thick with drifting pollen and the slow spirals of insects, and the whole forest seems lit from within. This is the hour when the world is at its most beautiful and its most peaceful. The heat is breaking. The herds have finished feeding and are drifting back from the water to rest. The great predators, fed or resting, have grown still. Even the endless conversation of the duckbills has quieted to an occasional low murmur across the meadows. There is a hush settling over the land, not the tense hush of danger, but the soft, contented hush of a warm day winding down, of a world getting ready, as it has every evening for tens of millions of years, to sleep. And you have been walking since dawn. You have met the giants and the hunters, the herds and the armored ones, the flyers over the sea and the small hidden ones in the shadows. You have carried, all day, the weight of knowing what they do not. It has been a heavy thing to carry, so set it down just for a while. The light in the sky will still be there when you look up again. For now, let the golden hour hold you. Let us spend this last calm evening the way the animals themselves are spending it. Slowly, gently, fully present in a beautiful world that has no idea it is beautiful and no idea it is the last. Come, walk with me into the evening. Let me show you a single hour in this world, from the inside, as though it were your own. So, let the story fall away for a while, and let there be only this, only you, and the evening, and the world exactly as it is. You are standing at the edge of the great meadow, where the forest gives way to open ground, and the light is the color of honey. The sun is low now, resting on the tops of the distant trees, and everything it touches has gone soft and warm and golden. The heat of the day has lifted, a gentle wind moves across the plain, and you can feel it on your skin, cool and damp and carrying the smell of water and green growth and warm earth. The ferns around your feet sway with it all together, a slow tide of green. You take a breath. It is the cleanest air you have ever breathed. No smoke, no engines, no dust of any city. Nothing in it but the pure exhalation of 100 million trees. You feel it fill you, and you let it go, and something in your shoulders finally unwinds. Out on the meadow, the great herds are at rest. The duckbills have folded their legs beneath them and settled into the long grass and the ferns. Hundreds of them scattered across the plain like boulders, their long bodies rising and falling with slow, even breath. The young ones lie tucked against the flanks of their mothers, and now and then, one of them stirs and gives a soft, sleepy honk, and is answered by a low rumble from the adult beside it, and then all is quiet again. Nearby, a family of Triceratops has done the same. The great horned heads lowered, the frills catching the last of the light, the calves dozing in the shelter of the adults' bodies. There is no fear here. The predators have fed, the evening is safe, and the largest animals in the world are lying down to sleep in the open, under a sky going pink and violet at its edges, as trusting as children. Walk out among them, slowly, and they will let you. A duckbill lifts its great head as you pass, regards you for a moment with one dark, calm, liquid eye, and then, deciding you are nothing to worry about, lowers it again and goes on chewing the last mouthful of the day. You are close enough now to see the fine detail of its skin, the thousands of tiny scales, the folds around the eye, the slow pulse of a vein along the neck. You can hear it breathing. You can hear the wet, rhythmic sound of its jaws. You can smell it. A warm, grassy animal smell. Not unpleasant, the smell of a living thing that has spent its whole life eating green plants in a green world. It is so close and so real and so utterly unbothered by you that the strangeness of where you are washes over you all at once. This is not a museum. This is not a picture. This is a living animal, breathing warm breath into the cooling evening air, 66 million years before you were born, and it has let you stand beside it. You keep walking out toward the water, and the light keeps changing. The pink deepens to rose, the rose to a burning orange along the horizon, and the first stars begin to prick through the darkening blue overhead. The great silver light is still there among them, brighter now than any star has a right to be. But you have promised yourself, for this 1 hour, not to think about it. You let your eyes fall instead to the surface of the river, which has gone to molten copper in the sunset, perfectly still, mirroring the flaming sky. A pair of small pterosaurs skim low across it, their reflections skimming with them, and the ripples spread and fade, and the water goes smooth again. At the water's edge, a Triceratops has come down to drink, alone, a big old bull with a frill scarred and notched by a lifetime of encounters. He wades into his knees and lowers his great beak to the surface, and you can hear the long, slow draw of him drinking, and see the rings spreading out around his legs into the copper stillness. When he lifts his head, water streams from his beak and catches the light like falling coins. He stands there a moment, dripping, gazing out across the river at nothing in particular, an old animal at the end of an ordinary day, and there is something in the sight of him, patient, solitary, entirely at peace, that puts a quiet ache in your chest. He has no idea he is the last of his kind that you will ever see drink from this river. He is simply thirsty, and the water is cool, and the evening is kind. The sun slips behind the trees. The sky above you turns the deep, luminous blue of true dusk, and the air grows cooler still, and the world begins to change its voice. The daytime chorus fades, the honking of the herds, the crying of the flyers, and in its place rises the sound of the night, insects. First, a low building hum from the reeds and the ferns, a million small wings, the ancient ancestor of every summer evening you have ever known. Then, from the forest behind you, other sounds, chirps and trills and soft calls. The small hidden creatures of the night shift beginning their day, as the giants end theirs. Somewhere a frog begins to sing, and then another, and the wet places fill with their voices. Fireflies, or something very like them, begin to blink on and off across the darkening meadow, green sparks rising and drifting among the sleeping shapes of the great herds. You had not expected that in this vanished world, on this last of all evenings, there would be fireflies. You find a place to sit on a low rise where the grass and ferns are soft and dry, and you lower yourself down, and for the first time all day, you are simply still. The earth is warm beneath you, holding the last of the sun's heat. The sleeping duckbills breathe in the darkness below. The river murmurs, the insects hum, and overhead, the sky fills slowly with more stars than you have ever seen in your life. The whole vast, blazing arch of a galaxy undimmed by any human light, thrown across the black from horizon to horizon, so bright you could almost read by it. You lie back in the warm grass and look up into it, and you feel the turning of the world beneath you, and you feel, for one long, weightless moment, completely at peace. This is what you will remember, not the size of the giants or the terror of the teeth. This, the warm earth, the humming dark, the breathing herds, the river of stars, the astonishing, ordinary peace of a living world at rest. It is the same peace that settles over a forest in your own age when the light goes down, the same hush, the same cooling air, the same rising song of insects and frogs. Across all those millions of years, the evening feels exactly the same, and in that sameness there is something almost unbearably tender. The knowledge that this world, so utterly strange, was also so utterly familiar, that these creatures, so alien, also grew thirsty at dusk, and lay down to sleep and raised their young, and drank from copper rivers under a sky full of stars, exactly as living things have always done, exactly as living things always will. The great herds sleep. The old bull turns from the water and walks slowly back up the bank into the dark. The fireflies drift, the stars wheel very slowly overhead, and you lie in the warm grass on the last good night of the old world, held by all of it, wanting nothing, afraid of nothing, present in a way you have rarely been present in your whole life. Stay here a while. There is no hurry. The night is long, and the world is kind. And for now, for just a little longer, everything is exactly as it should be. But somewhere above the horizon, hour by hour, that one bright star is climbing higher and burning colder, and it is no longer content to be a star. And though you would give anything to stay in this warm grass forever, the night is turning toward morning, and the morning is turning toward the thing that has been coming all along. Rest now while you can. When you wake, the world will begin to end. You wake before dawn, in the gray hour when the stars have begun to fade, but the sun has not yet risen. The world is quiet and cool and gray, wrapped in a soft mist that hangs over the meadow, and the great herds are still sleeping, dim shapes in the fog. It is the most ordinary morning imaginable, and it is the last one. You feel it before you understand it. A light, not from the east, where the sun should be, but from the south, low on the horizon, a light that was not there a moment ago. You turn toward it, and there, above the distant tree line, a second sun is rising. It is small and impossibly bright, a point of pure white fire brighter than anything in the sky, brighter than the real sun, so bright it hurts to look at, and it is growing. What you are seeing, though you cannot know the scale of it, is a mountain falling out of space, an asteroid 10 to 15 kilometers across, wider than a city, taller than the highest peak you have ever seen, is entering the atmosphere over the far side of the continent, and it is moving so fast, some 20 kilometers every second, that the air itself cannot get out of its way, and instead compresses in front of it into a plasma hotter than the surface of a star. For a few long seconds, the world simply holds its breath. The light in the south swells until it fills that whole quarter of the sky, until the mist glows with it, until the sleeping herds are lit as though by a second dawn, and one by one, the great heads begin to lift, slow and confused, dark eyes blinking toward a brightness they have no name for. And then, far to the south, beyond the curve of the world, the mountain touches the sea. You do not hear it, not yet. Sound is slow, and the place where it strikes is more than 1,000 kilometers away. But you see it, the southern sky flares, all at once, into a dome of blinding white light that climbs above the horizon and keeps climbing, a false sunrise swelling up from behind the edge of the world, silent and enormous and terrible in its beauty. It is the fireball, where the asteroid has struck, in the warm shallow sea off what will one day be called the Yucatan. It has punched through the water and deep into the rock of the Earth's crust, and released, in a single instant, more energy than every weapon humankind will ever build, set off all at once. A crater, 180 kilometers wide, is opening in the planet, and into the sky above it is rising a plume of vaporized rock and molten glass that will change the color of the whole world. Still, the herds do not run. There is nothing to run from that they can understand. They stand in the meadow, heads raised, watching the strange bright dawn in the south, uneasy but rooted, the way animals stand in a field before a storm they can sense but cannot see. A duckbill lows, long and low and questioning. Another answers, and then the ground begins to move. It comes as a deep, rolling shudder rising up through the soles of your feet, through the warm earth you slept on. A tremor that builds and builds until the whole world is shaking. The seismic waves from the impact are racing outward through the rock of the continent. And now they have reached you, and the land heaves like the deck of a ship. The great sleeping herds lurch to their feet in panic. The sleeping giants stagger. Trees at the forest's edge sway and crack and begin to fall. The river beside you sloshes out of its banks. Birds, the small feathered ones, burst up from the trees in clouds, crying, wheeling, and scatter in every direction. For the first time all day, the animals are afraid, truly afraid, a whole landscape of them, and their fear rises into the shaking dawn as a single vast confused chorus of alarm, and then, at last the sound arrives. It reaches you as a wall, a low, world-filling roar rolling up from the south, the sound of the impact itself finally catching up, so deep and so loud, it is less a noise than a physical force, pressing on your chest, on your ears, on the very air. Behind it comes the wind, a hot, hard wind screaming out of the south, flattening the ferns, bending the surviving trees, carrying dust and torn leaves, and the smell of burning. The herds break and run. But there is nowhere to run to, because the thing that is coming is not in front of them or behind them. It is above them. It is everywhere. It is the sky itself. Look up. High overhead, the heavens have begun to burn. That plume of molten rock thrown up from the crater, trillions of tons of it, has been hurled so high and so hard that much of it has flown clear out of the atmosphere and into space, and now, all around the planet, it is beginning to fall back. Countless droplets of molten glass and shattered stone are re-entering the air across the entire face of the earth, each one glowing white-hot with the heat of its fall, so that the whole sky, from horizon to horizon, is turning into a ceiling of fire. It begins as a strange reddening high above. Then the red deepens and spreads, and points of light appear within it, more and more of them, until the entire sky is a storm of falling stars, thickening into a solid, glowing, terrible orange, and the heat of it begins to pour down onto the world below, and it grows hot. The air, which an hour ago held the cool mist of dawn, begins to warm and then to bake. The falling debris fills the upper atmosphere with so much heat that the sky itself becomes an oven, and the ground beneath it begins to scorch. This is the thermal pulse, and it is reaching, in these hours, across the whole planet at once. Far to the south, near the crater, the land is already gone, vaporized, drowned, buried. But even here, 1,000 kilometers away, even on the far side of continents, the glowing sky is raining heat, and the dry forests and the ferns and the fallen timber are beginning everywhere to catch. You see the first flames leap up at the edge of the meadow in a stand of dead wood shaken down by the quake, then another further off. Then the whole tree line to the south glows and catches and rises into a wall of fire. The great herds are running now through a landscape lit the color of embers, beneath a sky that has become a furnace, and the smoke is rising, black and thick, to meet the burning heavens. The old bull Triceratops, the duckbill mothers and their calves, the raptors and the dome heads, and the small hidden things of the forest floor, all of them, everything you have walked among for a day and a night, are caught now in the same closing trap. The fire below and the fire above, and there is nothing at all, that any of them can do. This is the hinge of the world, everything before it. The 150 million years of giants, the herds and the hunters, the warm seas and the wheeling flyers, the whole slow, stable, magnificent age of the dinosaurs is on one side of this hour, and everything after it is on the other. It has taken a single morning. The mountain from the sky did not negotiate and did not warn. It simply arrived, and in arriving, it ended the rain that had held the earth since long before the first flower opened. But the fire, terrible as it is not the end. The fire is fast, and the fire is loud, and the fire will pass. What comes after the fire is slow and silent and far more total, and it is already beginning, high above the flames, in the darkening, thickening, poisoned sky. Turn your eyes from the burning ground for a moment and look up into the smoke, because the true end of the world is not made of fire at all. It is made of the dark. The fires burn for days, and then they burn out. And when they do, the world does not return to light. It falls instead into a darkness deeper than any night the earth has known in all its long history. And it is this darkness, not the fire, that finishes what the mountain from the sky began. Look up in the hours after the flames pass, and you will see why. All that vaporized rock, all that soot from a burning world, all that fine gray dust flung up from the crater, and the fires, hundreds of billions of tons of it, has risen into the high atmosphere and spread on the great winds around the entire planet. It forms a veil, a shroud of dust and ash and sulfur that wraps the whole earth from pole to pole. And it does the one thing that no living community on this planet can survive. It blocks the sun. The light goes out slowly. Over days, then weeks, the sky thickens from smoke gray to brown to a deep, sunless charcoal. And the sun, when you can find it at all, becomes a dim, dull, coppery smear behind the murk, giving neither warmth nor real light. And then even that is gone, and the world settles into a twilight that never lifts, a gloom so deep that at noon it is dark as a moonless midnight. This is the impact winter, and it will not last a night or a season. It will last for years, and in that darkness, the great machine you came to understand, the vast connected web of the living, every part turning against every other part, begins to come apart from the bottom up, exactly as you were warned it would. Remember the foundation. Remember the smallest and most silent things. The plankton in the warm sea, the green leaves on the warm land, quietly turning sunlight into food for everything above them. Now the sunlight is gone, and so, first, quietly, invisibly, the green begins to die. In the sea, the plankton starve in the dark water and sink, and the small fish that ate them starve, and the larger fish that ate them, and up the collapse climbs through the ocean until the great mosasaurs, the bus-length rulers of the warm seas who feared nothing that swam, are cruising through an emptying, cooling, darkening ocean with nothing left to hunt, and one by one, over the long months, they weaken and slow and die, and their vast bodies drift down into a deep that is itself going silent. The four-flippered plesiosaurs go with them, the great sea turtles, the sharks, the ammonites in their beautiful coiled shells that have floated in these waters for 100 million years, all of them following the plankton down into the dark. On land, it is the same, only you can watch it happen. The ferns and the flowering plants and the great conifers, robbed of light, stop growing, wither, and drop their leaves. Within weeks, the green world you walked through is a world of bare gray stems and fallen timber under a sunless sky. And when the plants die, the plant eaters begin to starve, and there is no animal on Earth that needs more food than a dinosaur the size of a house. The duckbill herds, which needed whole floodplains of vegetation to feed their hundreds, wander a barren and darkened land, growing thinner, growing weaker, their endless conversation fading to silence, as one by one they lie down in the cold and do not rise. The horned herds go the same way. The great old bull Triceratops, who drank so peacefully from the Copper River at dusk, has nothing left to eat and no warmth to find, and in the long twilight he simply fails, as all his kind are failing across an entire continent in a silence with no witnesses. And when the plant eaters are gone, the hunters follow. The great predator you met in the light of the first morning, the king of the forest, with the most powerful bite that ever closed on land, who feared no rival in all the world, meets an enemy at last that no tooth can bite and no strength can fight. There is nothing to hunt. The herds it lived on are dead or dying, and there are not enough of them, and there will never be more, because there is nothing left for them to eat either. So the Tyrannosaurus, too, grows thin and slow and cold and hungry in a way it has never been hungry, and it hunts a darkened, empty land for prey that is no longer there, until at last it lies down in the cold ash of the world. It once ruled and closes its eyes and does not open them again, and with it goes the last of the giants. The whole magnificent architecture of size, 150 million years in the building, comes down, not in fire or in battle, but quietly, in the dark, from hunger and from cold, because somewhere far away, the sky went out. The cold is the other blade, with the sun blocked. The warmth that made this a hothouse world drains away, and temperatures plunge across the whole planet. A sudden and brutal winter, falling on animals that never knew a frost, for creatures the size of the giants, too large to shelter, too hungry to rest. There is no hiding from it. The world that had been warm from pole to pole for longer than they had existed turns, in a single season, bitterly, killingly cold. It is a slaughter beyond any reckoning, not a battle, not a catastrophe of a single terrible day, but a slow, silent, global dying that unfolds over months and years, quietly emptying the land and the sea of nearly everything large enough to see. When it is over, 3 out of every 4 kinds of living things on Earth will be gone, vanished, every last one, never to return. The dinosaurs that ruled the land, the great reptiles that ruled the sea, the pterosaurs that ruled the air, the giant Quetzalcoatlus, with its wings like an aircraft, gone from the sky forever, the ammonites, the mosasaurs, whole branches of the tree of life, pruned away in an instant of geological time, leaving gaps that will never be filled by anything quite the same again. And yet, hold on to this, for it is the most important thing in all the long dark. It is not the end of life. It is not even close to the end of life. Down in the burrows, under the frozen ground, in the cracks and the shadows where the giants could never go, the small and the hidden are still breathing. Remember the little mammal with the bright dark eyes, sniffing at the rotting log in the golden afternoon. It is still here, sheltered underground from the fire and the cold, small enough to survive on almost nothing, able to eat seeds and insects and the dead. It waits out the long night in its burrow, warm with the heat of its own blood, its heart still beating in the dark. And with it wait the little birds, the last surviving dinosaurs, roosting in the ruins of the forest, small and tough and quick, and the frogs in the mud, and the turtles in the ponds, and the crocodiles in the rivers, and the seeds of the plants themselves, sleeping in the frozen soil, holding within them the whole green future of the world. The giants held the earth for an unimaginable age, and in a single stroke, they lost it. But the meek, the small, the patient, and the hidden, the ones no one would ever have chosen, held on. The light will come back. It will take years, but the dust will settle, and the shroud will thin, and one distant morning, the sun will break through onto a broken, silent, empty world. And into that emptiness, blinking out of their burrows, the small survivors will come, and everything that happens next, every forest, every bird, every beast, and one day, very far off, you will begin from them. But that morning is still a long way off, for now the dark holds, and the cold holds, and the great world of the giants lies still beneath the ash. Let us sit with that silence for a moment before we follow the light back up out of it, because what grows in the ruins of this lost world is a story almost as astonishing as the world itself. If you are still here with me, drifting along through the dark and out the other side, thank you. If these journeys help you rest, you can quietly follow along so that the next one finds you when it comes. Now, let us go on, because the story is not over. In some ways, it is only beginning. Stay where you are, on that rise above the meadow, and let time move quickly now. Years at a breath, centuries in the space of a thought. The dark begins to lift. It happens so slowly that at first you cannot be sure it is happening at all. But the deep charcoal of the sky pales, season by season, to gray, and then to a dull, luminous white. And then one morning, the first true morning in years, a shaft of pale sunlight breaks through the thinning veil and falls onto the ruined land. And it is warm. The shroud is settling out of the sky at last, falling as a thin gray dust that will one day become a single dark line in the rock, a hair's breadth of clay marking forever the day the world changed. The sun is coming back, and where the sunlight falls, the green begins to return. It starts with the humblest things of all. Ferns, hardy, patient, quick to spread, rise first from the ash, unrolling their new fronds across a landscape of bare gray mud and fallen timber until whole valleys that were silent and dead are soft and green again, with a low carpet of them. The seeds that slept through the long night in the frozen soil begin to wake. The plants come back not as the great cathedral forests of before, not all at once, but slowly, tentatively, a thin green skin healing over a wounded world. And with the green comes the food, and with the food, the survivors begin, at last, to come out of hiding. Watch the burrows. On a bright, cool morning, at the edge of the returning ferns, a small furred head appears at the mouth of a hole in the ground, whiskers trembling, bright dark eyes blinking in a sunlight. Its kind has barely seen for years. It is the little mammal, or rather, the many times great-grandchild of the little mammal you crouched beside in the golden afternoon of the last day. Its ancestors survived the fire in their burrows, survived the cold beneath the ground, survived the long famine on seeds and insects and scraps, and now, into a world swept empty of giants, it emerges, and it finds something no mammal has ever found in all the 100 million years its family has been hiding. It finds a world with room. That is the quiet miracle of what comes next, and it is worth pausing on because you are watching the beginning of your own world. For 100 million years, the mammals stayed small because there was no room to be otherwise. Every large body, every grazing niche, every role of the great hunter was already filled by something scaled and enormous. Now, in a single geological instant, all of that is gone. The stage that the giants held for so long stands suddenly, shockingly empty, and into that emptiness, the small survivors begin to grow. It does not happen overnight, but across the ages that follow, and now let the centuries pour past you like water. The descendants of that little burrowing creature spread out into every empty corner of the world and begin, slowly, to become everything. Some stay small and stay hidden, as they always were, but others grow larger because at last they can. They spread into the forests and become climbers. They spread into the plains and become grazers, growing hooves and horns and long-running legs to fill the empty roles, the duckbills and the horned herds left behind. Some grow into great predators, taking up the vacant crown of the vanished king. Some, astonishingly, return to the very sea the mosasaurs once ruled, and over long ages, their legs become flippers and their bodies become vast, until the largest animals the planet has ever known, the great whales, larger even than the dinosaur giants, are swimming through oceans that the reptiles lost. Everywhere the giants fell, the warm-blooded and the furred rise to take their place. It is the dawn of the age of mammals, and it is built, every bit of it, on the empty ground the asteroids swept clean, and the dinosaurs themselves are not entirely gone. Remember the little birds roosting in the ruined forest, small and tough and quick, the one branch of the great dinosaur family that made it through the dark. They inherit the sky the pterosaurs lost. Down the long ages, they spread and multiply and diversify into thousands upon thousands of forms, until every dawn chorus in every forest of the world to come is sung by the surviving children of the dinosaurs. When you hear a robin in the morning, or watch a hawk turn in the high air, or see geese cross an autumn sky, you are looking at the living descendants of this vanished world. Dinosaurs still carrying the old blood forward into every age, right up to your own. The giants fell, but the family never entirely died. Let the centuries keep pouring. Ice ages come and go across the far northern lands, great sheets of it advancing and retreating as the world cools from its ancient hothouse warmth. Continents drift and collide. The warm inland sea that split the land drains away, and its bed becomes the dry plains and painted badlands, where, one distant day, the bones of everything you have seen will be dug from the rock. Grass, that rare and minor thing beneath your feet on the last morning, spreads at last across the world and becomes the great prairies and savannas, and upon those grasslands, the mammals gather into herds of their own and are hunted by predators of their own in a new drama that echoes, without knowing it, the old one you walked through. And then, very late, so late it is almost the present moment, in a warm corner of one of those grasslands, a certain kind of mammal comes down out of the trees and stands upright on two legs and shades its eyes and looks out across the plain and begins, slowly, to wonder about the world. That is you, or the beginning of you. Every step of the long climb from the burrow to the upright figure on the savanna runs back, unbroken, through that little furred survivor, blinking at the mouth of its hole in the returning ferns, and back, before that, to the golden afternoon when it sniffed at a rotting log while giants slept in the meadow and paid it no mind. You are here tonight, able to imagine this whole lost world, only because the mountain fell from the sky and cleared the way. The end of their world was the seed of yours. It is a strange and humbling thread to hold, that everything you are traces back to the worst day the earth has ever known, and to the smallness of a creature no one would ever have bet on. But hold it gently. There is no lesson being forced here, no meaning being pressed upon you. There is only the long, astonishing chain of it, running from that last warm evening all the way up to this quiet moment. Wherever you are, however late it has grown, rest with that for a while, and when you are ready, there is one more question worth asking, not about the past, but about how we know any of this at all, and whether such a thing could ever come again. Perhaps, somewhere in the drifting dark of this journey, a quiet question has been forming. How could anyone possibly know all this? The last day of the dinosaurs was 66 million years ago. No one was there to see the second sun rise, or the sky turn to fire, or the great herds lie down in the cold. And yet we can describe that day, hour by hour, almost as though we had stood in the meadow ourselves. Where does such knowledge come from? The answer is one of the most patient and beautiful detective stories in all of science, and it is worth telling softly because the truth of how we know is nearly as wonderful as the thing we know. It began, as many great discoveries do, with something small and strange that did not fit. In the 1970s, a geologist named Walter Alvarez was studying a thin layer of clay in the rocks of Italy. A single dark band, no thicker than your finger, that lay exactly at the boundary between the age of the dinosaurs and everything that came after. Below the clay, the rock was full of tiny fossils. Above it, they were gone, and in the clay itself, when he and his father, the physicist Luis Alvarez, tested it, they found something that should not have been there. A metal called iridium, rare as almost nothing on the surface of the Earth, but common in asteroids and comets. There was far too much of it in that thin line. And then they found the same thing in the same layer, at the same moment in time, in rocks all over the world. A whisper of asteroid metal, laid down across the entire planet. Precisely at the instant the dinosaurs vanished. It was a staggering idea, and at first almost no one believed it. But the clues kept coming. In that same boundary layer, scientists found grains of quartz that had been shocked, their crystal structure shattered in a way that only the immense, sudden pressure of an impact can produce. They found tiny beads of glass, spherules, the frozen droplets of rock that had been melted and flung into the sky and rained back down. The very same falling glass that turned the heavens to fire. And still one great piece was missing. If an asteroid struck the Earth, where was the crater? A wound that size could not simply vanish. It had not vanished. It had been hidden, buried under 1/2 kilometer of younger rock and the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula lay a vast circular scar in the crust, more than 180 kilometers across, discovered almost by accident by geologists searching for oil. They named it Chicxulub, after a small town near its center. When its age was measured, it came back exactly, precisely, to the moment of the boundary layer, 66 million years ago. The crater and the clay, and the iridium, and the shocked quartz, and the glass beads all told the same story, in the same instant of time, and the case was closed. A mountain had fallen from the sky, and it had fallen there, and it had ended the world of the giants. And then, more recently, came the most astonishing discovery of all, a place that may hold the last hours themselves, frozen in stone. In the Badlands of North Dakota, thousands of kilometers from the crater, paleontologists have uncovered a site called Tanis, where a jumble of fish and plants and animals appears to have been buried all at once in a single catastrophic surge of water and mud on what many researchers believe was the very day of the impact. In the gills of the fossil fish, they found tiny glass spherules, the falling debris from Chicxulub, breathed in by animals still alive as it rained from the sky. The surge that buried them was set off, it seems, by the great seismic waves you felt roll through the meadow, sloshing the rivers and seas of the continent minutes after the strike, long before the fire and the dark arrived. If they are right, and the science is still being argued, honestly and carefully, as good science always is. Then at Tanis, we are looking at a snapshot of the last morning itself, the final hours of the old world pressed into the rock like a flower in a book. It is as close as we may ever come to standing in that meadow ourselves. This is how we know, not by being there, but by learning to read the quiet handwriting the earth keeps in its stone. A thin line of clay, a shocked grain of quartz, a bead of glass in the gill of a fish, a buried scar off a tropical coast. The planet remembers everything if you know how to ask, and generation by generation, patiently, we have taught ourselves to ask. Every detail of the day you have walked through tonight was earned this way by people bent over rock with brushes and instruments, and long, careful thought, reading the story the world wrote down. Which leaves one last, quiet question, and it would be dishonest not to ask it. Could it happen again? The answer, plainly, is yes. Such things have happened before Chicxulub and can happen again, for the sky is not empty, and the earth has crossed the paths of wandering stones many times in its long life. But here the honest truth is a gentle one. Impacts on the scale of the one that ended the dinosaurs are extraordinarily rare, separated by many tens of millions of years. And unlike the animals of the last day, we are not standing blind beneath the sky. For the first time in the whole history of life on this planet, there is a species that watches. Around the world, telescopes sweep the dark every night, mapping the paths of the asteroids that share our orbit, cataloging the large ones, calculating where they will be, not just tomorrow, but centuries from now. The great majority of the truly world-ending objects have been found, and none of them are coming for us. And more than that, we have begun, tentatively, to learn how to reach out and change an asteroid's path, should we ever need to. What the dinosaurs could never do, because no dinosaur could ever understand the light in the sky, we have at least begun to imagine doing. So there is no need to carry any fear out of tonight's journey. The point of looking up is not dread, it is perspective. The same long chain that runs from that little burrowing survivor all the way to you has, at its very end, produced a creature that can look at the sky the dinosaurs never understood, and read it, and remember a day it never saw, and even perhaps guard against its return in all the 66 million years since the mountain fell. That may be the most remarkable thing that has grown out of the empty ground it left behind. Not the great whales, not the herds on the plains, but a small, upright, curious animal that learned to look up and understand. There is a kind of quiet comfort in that, if you let it settle. The world of the giants ended because no one saw it coming. Ours, at least, has watchers, and having come all this way, from the warm meadow to the fire, to the long dark and out again into the light, there is one last thing left to do. Not to explain what it all means, but simply to hold it one final time and let it go. Let the years stop pouring now. Let time grow still again, and come back with me, gently, to the meadow, to the world as it was before any of it happened. In the warm gold of that last evening, we have followed the whole arc of it now. The ordinary morning, the giants in their glory, the light in the sky, the fire, the long dark, and the slow green return that leads, in the end, to you. Before we let it go, it is worth sitting for a little while with what such a story quietly leaves behind, not as a lesson to be learned, but simply as a thing to hold in the hand and turn over, the way you might turn a smooth stone found on a beach. The first thing that stays with you, I think, is how ordinary the last day was. That is the part the old imagination never got right. We picture the end of the dinosaurs as a world already doomed. Red skies and constant battle. Monsters snarling at a bitter fate. But it was nothing like that. It was a Tuesday. It was a warm morning. Like 10,000 warm mornings before it. With mist on the meadow and herds drifting down to drink, and the old bull wading into the copper river at dusk. The animals were not waiting for the end. They were living, grazing, resting, tending their young, laying their eggs in the warm ground, entirely certain, in the wordless way of living things, that tomorrow would be like today. The catastrophe did not announce itself. It arrived on an ordinary morning, into an ordinary world, and that is perhaps the truest and most quietly affecting thing about it. The great ages do not know they are ending. They are simply going about their day. And then there is the matter of time, the sheer, dizzying depth of it. The dinosaurs ruled the Earth for something like 150 million years. It is a number so large it slides off the mind and refuses to be held. To give it some shape, if you could somehow live a single day for every year the dinosaurs reigned, you would be living for more than 400,000 human lifetimes. They were not a brief chapter. They were the longest and most successful story of large life the planet has ever told, running for so long that the continents themselves rearranged beneath their feet, oceans opening and closing while the giants walked, and against all that vastness, the thing that ended them took a single morning. There is a strange and humbling proportions in that, an age beyond imagining, closed in an hour, and it asks nothing of you except that you notice it and feel for a moment how thin and precious the present always is. But if the story held only endings, it would sit heavier than it does. What keeps it from being merely sad is the other thread running through it, the one that did not end. Life itself was not defeated that day. It was pruned, savagely, 3/4 of it cut away, and then it did the thing it has always done. It went on. It found the survivors in the burrows and the shallows and the seeds sleeping in the soil, and it built, out of those small and unpromising remnants, an entirely new world. The whales in the sea, the birds in the air, the herds on the grass, and at the very end of the long climb, a creature that could look back and understand. Nothing that lives today was inevitable. All of it grew from what happened to make it through. There is something steadying in that, if you let it settle over you in the dark, that even the worst day the earth has ever known was not the last word, and that life, given the smallest crack to grow through, will take it and fill the emptiness again with forms no one could have predicted, and running beneath all of it, quiet and unbroken, is the thread of connection, the one that ties that warm meadow directly to wherever you are lying now. It is easy to think of the dinosaurs as belonging to another world entirely, a place with no bearing on your own. But they are not another world. They are the root of this one. The bird outside your window is their living descendant. The ground beneath your city is, in places, made of their bones and the shells of the creatures that died in that warm inland sea. The oil that moves through the modern world is the buried remains of the plankton whose dying began the long dark, and you yourself, the warm and breathing fact of you, trace back in an unbroken line to a small furred creature that sniffed at a rotting log while giants slept nearby and paid it no mind. There is no clean break between their world and yours. There is only one long, continuous story, and you are the part of it that happens to be awake right now, holding the whole of it in mind on a quiet night. That, in the end, may be the gentlest thing to carry away. Not a moral, not a warning, just a sense of belonging to something very old and very large. The same sun that is setting or has set outside your window is the same star that warmed the meadow on the last morning. The same darkness you are lying in now is a cousin of the darkness that fell when the sky went out, though yours is soft and safe and passing, and theirs was not. The frogs you might hear on a summer night are singing a song older than the flowers. You are not separate from that lost world. You are its distant, unlikely living continuation, and to spend an hour imagining it is not to visit somewhere foreign. It is to remember, in a way, where you came from. There is no need to do anything with all this. It is not asking to be turned into a resolution or a plan. It is enough simply to have felt it, the vastness of the time, the ordinariness of the last day, the tenderness of a world that did not know it was ending, and the quiet stubbornness of the life that carried on. These are large things, and large things are best held lightly, the way you hold the memory of a dream just before it fades. Let them be as heavy or as weightless as they wish to be. Let them drift. The meadow is still here, in the warm gold of that last evening, waiting for us to see it one final time. The herds are settling. The old bull is turning back from the water. The fireflies are beginning to rise. There is nothing left to explain and nothing left to fear. There is only the world as it was on the last good night, and one more quiet moment to spend inside it before we let it go for good. Come back to the meadow with me, just once more, and then we will rest. The whole long journey folds closed behind us now. The fire, the dark, the millions of years, the long climb up to this quiet moment, and we return to where we began, to the meadow at dusk, on the last good night of the old world. There is nothing left to learn here. There is only the world itself, as it was, and you within it, come to say a gentle goodbye. The light is the color of honey again. The sun rests on the tops of the distant trees, and everything it touches has gone soft and warm and golden, exactly as it was when you first arrived. The heat of the day has lifted. That same gentle wind moves across the plain, cool and damp, carrying the smell of water and green growth and warm earth. And the ferns sway with it all together. A slow tide of green. Out on the meadow, the great herds are settling to rest, folding their long bodies into the grass, the young ones tucking against the warm flanks of their mothers. A duckbill lows, soft and low and sleepy, and is answered by a murmur from the animal beside it, and then the meadow goes quiet. The old bull Triceratops turns from the copper river, water still dripping from his beak, and catching the last of the light like falling coins, and walks slowly back up the bank into the gathering dusk, unhurried, at peace, an old animal at the end of an ordinary and perfect day. You know now everything that is coming. You know about the light climbing higher in the sky, and the second sun that will rise before this one has fully set again, and the fire, and the long dark, and the small survivors waiting in their burrows to inherit the ruined world and, in time, to become everything, to become the birds and the whales and the herds on the grass. And at the very end, you have carried that knowledge through the whole of this journey, but you do not need to carry it anymore. You can set it down now, here in the warm grass, and let it rest beside you, because tonight, in this meadow, none of it has happened yet. Tonight the world is only warm and green and full and settling gently down to sleep, as it has every evening for 150 million years. Find your place again on that low rise, where the grass and the ferns are soft and dry, and lower yourself down into them. The earth is still warm beneath you, holding the last of the sun's heat, giving it back slowly into the cooling night. The sleeping herds breathe in the darkness below you, a great slow rhythm of rising and falling, hundreds of vast bodies at rest. The river murmurs, low and constant, and the day's chorus fades, as it did before, into the softer song of the night, the building hum of the insects in the reeds, the first frogs beginning in the wet places, and the small green sparks of the fireflies rising and drifting among the sleeping giants, blinking on, blinking off, scattered across the dark, like the reflection of the stars that are coming out overhead. Lie back now and look up. The sky is filling, slowly, with more stars than you have ever seen. The whole blazing arch of the galaxy, thrown across the black from one horizon to the other, undimmed, uncounted, brighter than any sky your own age will ever show you. And yes, one of those points of light is brighter than it should be. And yes, it is climbing, patient and cold, toward a morning that will change everything. But not tonight. Tonight it is only a star among 1,000,000 stars, and you need not watch it. Let your eyes wander instead through all the others, that vast quiet field of light turning very slowly above you, while the warm earth holds you from below, and the herds breathe in the dark, and the river runs on toward the sea. This is where the journey ends, not in the fire, not in the dark, but here, in the warm grass, under the stars, on the last peaceful night of a world that never knew how beautiful it was. The giants sleep around you, the fireflies drift, the frogs sing their song that is older than the flowers, and whatever comes with the morning, it is a long way off yet, further than you need to think about now. There is only this warm and breathing night, and the deep, slow rhythm of the sleeping world, and the soft weight of your own tiredness settling over you at last, as gentle as the dark. So let your eyes grow heavy. Let the stars blur softly overhead. Let the hum of the insects and the murmur of the river carry you down, the way the warm earth is carrying the great herds down into rest. You have come a very long way tonight, 66 million years and back again, and you have earned this quiet. There is nothing left to do. There is nowhere left to go. There is only the meadow and the stars and the breathing dark and the oldest and simplest truth of all living things, which is that after every long day, however full, however strange, there is at last the sweetness of sleep. Rest now. The world is warm, and the herds are sleeping, and the stars are turning slowly overhead, and all of it, will hold you gently through the night. Sleep well,